Good evening. Welcome. I see that we have some people coming in to join us. Give you just a minute or so to get acclimated. But this is Omega Black Writers. This is our seventh in a series of webinars where we bring you some of the outstanding writers from across the country to talk about their book and their process of getting their books published. What we want to share with you is this was started in November of 2021, and we thought it was important to bring to the public some of the outstanding writers in our fraternity. We are all members of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and everyone that has been presented has published one or more books. So we want to expose to you new materials. If you're a reader, new writers that you can support. We wanted to give them an opportunity to talk about their writing and their process of getting their books published. For those who are viewing, who want to get a book written, but are not sure how to get that started. So we have the expertise from people who've done that. So we have brought 3 additional outstanding writers for you today. We'll get started in just a minute. Our theme, which most of the time I forget to mention, is Black intelligence, empowering through literacy. We think it's important that we have a more literate population. More literate people make better, more educated decisions. So we wanted to present this program, and we will continue to do so as long as we have writers that are interested in participating. Okay, with that, as I forgot to mention, my name is Jerry Holliday, and I will be your host and moderator today. And we'll go ahead and get started and introduce each of our writers and give them an opportunity to talk about their book. And let's get started with briefly tell us who you are and a little bit about your book, Bishop Jonny Young.
Thank you, Jerry, and good evening to all of you. I am Bishop Jonny Young, the author of Journey of Pain from the Pit to the Throne. I'm married to the lovely wife, Dr. Brenda Louise Davis Young. On August 16, 1975, we'll be celebrating 48 years in a couple of months. We have 2 sons, Jarvis and Jonathan Young, 2 daughter-in-laws, Jocelyn and Leslie. I have 7 grandchildren, Jackson Luke, Julia Lala Young, Jade Lynn, Jai Lynn, Ja Ashley Young, Johnny Lewis, Janai Amari, Janelle Elise. I am the 11th child of 13, born in Dixon's Mill, Alabama, to the parents of Menifee and Lala Young. When my mother was about 37 years old, she was pregnant with me in 1951. And the medical doctors informed her that she and I had a 50-50 chance of survival due to complicated pregnancy. The medical doctor recommended her to terminate the pregnancy. But after much prayer, my mother decided to take the 50-50 chance to continue the pregnancy with me. And as God would have it, with that, I just celebrated my 72nd birthday on May 15th, and for the entire month. My mother had 2 children after my birth. And by the grace of God, she lived about 58 more years after my birth at the ripe age of 95 in 2010. So as the Lord will, according to Psalms 91:16, he said, with long life have I satisfied him and show him my salvation. I'm thanking God already and praising God to celebrate 68 more years for the entire month of May until I'm 140 years old. Then I start celebrating maybe one day for the rest of my life after then. But now, at the age of 11 years old, my father passed away. And he was at the age of 46 years old with 7 siblings under the age of 18. And my mother was a widower at the age of 47. My father was a sharecropper in Dixonville, Alabama, and we lived in a 3-bedroom shack with an additional 5 first cousins who moved in with us. It was my father's sister who was paralyzed in the early 50s. My book, The Journey of Pain, would detail and the trials and tribulation that a journey into faith will encounter. This is a story about the life committed to the Lord through love, through prayer, through hope and faith and repentance and confession and reconciliation. And you will learn in my book what dedication, discipline, perseverance, patience, and opportunity can afford us if we open ourselves to the will of God. My story will resonate with those who seek to balance a successful religious life with the challenges required to build a strong, courageous outcome through academics, business, and civic endeavors. Anyone who's looking to ascend to the heights of success will encounter pain and hurt and suffering uncommonly known by the average person. But when you read my book, you will see how you can break the chains of opposition through your obedience and faithfulness to God. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bishop Young. We appreciate this very much. And let's move on to our second distinguished writer, Dr. Eugene Spencer Jr. Please introduce yourself and tell us about your book.
Well, Brother Holliday, first of all, I would like to express my thanks to you for hosting this series. It is truly an image for Omega Sci-Fi to participate in such series. I am a retired dentist and community activist. I graduated from Alcorn State with honors. I attended dental school at Howard University, and I practiced for 45 years in Sacramento, California. In the year of 2018, I decided to write my life's history. I was inspired by my wife and children to do this. We wanted to leave a legacy and a blueprint for them and for African Americans to demonstrate to them that through hard work and diligence, they can be successful. I also was inspired by Medgar Evers, who happened to be a schoolmate of mine. And on many occasions, he spent time with us, explaining to us that we owe it to ourselves to give back to the community. I was encouraged to write this book by my dear and loving wife of 48 years. I would like to dedicate this to her because she had the patience and the diligence to be and allow me to do this. Other than that, I have enjoyed writing the book, and hopefully you will read my book, which describes the injustices and the suppression that Blacks experience in Mississippi. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Spencer. And let's move on to our third writer. Let me acknowledge that he is the youngest writer that we've ever had on our webinar, but I've been very impressed with him and in speaking with him and actually meeting him. So, Deveon Remaker, tell us who you are and tell us about your book.
Thank you, Brother Holliday. Pleasure being here I am elated to be able to share this platform. And also to those that are in attendance, thank you all as well. So, as Brother Holiday stated, my name is Deveon Remaker. I am married and have 2 sons. I also do some volunteer coaching in my spare time as well. So I was born in South Central Los Angeles off of 105th and Avalon to 2 teenage parents attending Locke High School at the time. I would soon grow up in a single parent household a couple years later. And a few years beyond that, my younger brother would arrive. So I went on to get my bachelor's degree in English, which is my favorite subject, probably because I wasn't too familiar with the Pythagorean theorem, right? So English is my favorite subject. Then went on to receive a master's in public administration. My education led me to my current position. I am in management under the Department of Developmental Services, overseeing a Department of Social Workers. The LA environment, it would often expose me to things that taught me how to navigate the community, how to effectively communicate in response to turmoil. And unbeknownst to me, all of these stepping stones, including obtaining an English degree, were actually pushing me in a direction to write. So here I am, a published author. So the book, Dreams That Have Consequences, I like to just show the visual. And so I wanted to paint a picture of 2 opposing thoughts, right? I mean, you have this a little more dreamy, happy in their dreams. Then you have someone here that's a little more disgruntled. So that's the visual I wanted to give for this book, as there are dreams, but there comes consequences with some of these things. So the book, I focused on what I consider to be relevant topics. We think such things as marriage, that's one of the pieces. Marriage, for example, and its fairy tale, no one talks about the joint accounts, managing extended family, developing a sense of cohesion with the in-laws. After all, we do marry into someone's family and vice versa. So this is just an example of how we must look at both the dream and its outcome in its entirety. I also speak about reality and like the dream to change. Well, we have the pandemic, right? So we dream about change, but this change, however, came with some challenges, depression for some, job turnover, a lot of discomfort. But I find that there's beauty in this unorthodox of a celebration, right? And so with the pandemic, it also allowed us to remain still, love on our people, love on our folks more, spend time, take mental breaks and decompress, and just overall hone our skills to become entrepreneurs and authors for this matter. And one of the other topics I talk about parenthood. A lot of people dream to be parents. We see the joy in parents when raising their kids, but we don't think about the sacrifices that it may take. We have to be willing to give up our own selfish ways, and also sometimes just the differences in child rearing. So there's many things that I attempt to highlight throughout this short poetic read, but the book overall focuses on the dichotomy of aspiring goals and harsh realities.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you. And we're going to stay with you. Okay, let's talk about, you talked about your upbringing, but what was the inspiration through your experiences that got you to the point of, I need to put this in writing. I need to get this published into the public. Share that with us.
Absolutely. So inspiration, one is my brother. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2019.
Sorry.
Thank you. But my brother, he was a dreamer. He always wanted to accomplish many things. It seemed like his thoughts were all over the place a lot of times. And so as a big brother and mentor, I tried to contain his thoughts and dreams, saying to just, focus on one thing at a time, set some action steps. But I should have been praising all those things because it's okay to dream. It's okay to have big dreams, and it could be limitless. So it's been an interest of mine for some time to write And I've been performing poetry for years. For those that are familiar with myself, doing spoken word poetry. So that it's always been an inspiration just to get this project done. Also, my wife, another huge inspiration, as I've seen this woman work through a Ph.D. program. I mean, her work ethic, her diligence was visible, and she just often encouraged me to map out steps to execute this project. It's funny because we think of people that have dreams since they were a little kid on what they want to be when they grow up. There's only a few people that follow through all the way, right? And my wife is one of them. So huge inspiration there. And my sons are inspiration to be able to have a book and things etched in stone for them to look at years down the line, and hopefully be motivated by some of these things that I offer in the book. My sons are certainly an inspiration as well.
Okay, outstanding. I appreciate you sharing. All right, and let's move on back to Dr. Eugene Spencer Jr. Now, Doc, you told us a lot about the inspiration for your book when you responded to our first question. So let's have you talk a bit more specifically about your book. I know you have some stories to share, but kind of share some of that insights that you share in your book that our readers will find, that our viewers will find of interest.
Well, first of all, the title of the book, Mississippi Born, California Bound, How Jim Crow and Racism Lost to a Family Legacy. This memoir describes my life story beginning as a teenager or sooner in Mississippi. It was very, very difficult for African Americans to survive and to be able to be successful with the injustices by the races in Mississippi. I felt after I had retired that I should write a book. I was inspired by my children, and especially my oldest. She said to me one day, "Dad, why don't you write your life story?" And I gave it some thought, and I began writing. And to be honest with you, with her encouragement, I wrote the book, and I never ended in writing the book until a couple of years after I initially indicated.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it was some of the most impactful events upon my life in Mississippi, which is not objective for Blacks in the state of Mississippi. And I felt by me leaving a blueprint for the youngsters to use, they could be successful in achieving success. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your response. Okay, Bishop Young, let's talk a little bit about your inspiration for writing this particular book. As we know, you have published multiple books, but share that with us.
Thank you so much. After climbing the ladder of success and winning against the odds since 1951, my birth, and for the first 56 years of my life, I started teaching early at the age of 5 years old. I've served as a certified teacher, counselor, school administrator, president of Inglewood Area Ministers Association, senior pastor from 1982 to the present time, going on 42 years, and founder and a chancellor and a key professor of our Bible college here, and elected to the school board of Inglewood Unified School District in 2003, and I served there until 2015 for 12 years. And I was elected in 2006 as the second senior bishop of our church denomination in 94 years. The first senior bishop served for 78 years. I had been contemplating on writing this book since October the 8th, 2007, after the death of my Moses, my mentor, my first pastor, my biological father's best friend since 1944, my father-in-law, our founder and the first chief apostle of the Church of God Pentecostal. And it was during the COVID-19 stay-at-home order from the CDC and the election of our 46th president, Joseph R. Biden, and our first Black vice president, Madam Kamala Harris. I decided to complete this daunting task of writing my book, The Journey of Pain from the Pit to the Throne. You can see this picture here. This is a picture when I was 11 years old when my father died. And they say, look just like my grandson, but this is me at 11 years old. And from that point, after writing this book, in this book you'll find, if you don't know my story, you can't share my glory after 71 to 72 years of trials and tribulation and heartaches, deserted by my own countrymen, lied on, cheated, mistreated, flatlined on the airplane in 2017. I broke my ankle April the 4th, 2021, on Easter Sunday morning as I was getting ready to finalize the publishing of my book on April the 30th, 2021. And in this book, you will see I enumerated here 15 chapters. Be careful how you share your dreams. Detours on the way to your dream. I fell down, but I got back up. And many other chapters in this book that you're going to enjoy reading. I'm inspired and excited. Each time I autograph this book, I get excited. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to stay with you, Bishop. Okay, let's talk a little bit for the people that are watching that have an idea, a thought, or a story that they want to share, but they don't know how. So talk about your process of writing. And once you have, you can share with us, how do you write in terms of what's your plan, how often you write. And once you've gotten your book, you say your first book written, what was your process of getting that to a publisher, getting it edited? So share those things with our viewers.
But for this book, this is my second book here published. And for this book in particular, it was in 2019, I began to pull my notes together from way back in 1974 when I started ministering, in particular from 2008 when I became the second senior bishop and chief apostle, and placing my notes into some very rough drafts and related messages that I had been preaching over the last 48 to 50 years. And that was since 1974, and I placed them into some chapter form. And I had to have so much. Back in 1974 and 75, I was introduced to a computer. So I had lots of notes that in handwritten, on scribble paper, and my writing was similar to the medical doctor, because I had planned to be a medical doctor, but it deviated after I got married. But I had to transpose those into my computer. And after many times, the computer crashed and lost what I had documented. And so it took me some time from 2019 to get it into some chapter format. But I was so fortunate and blessed to have my administrative assistant, who is my daughter-in-law. She took those drafts, some handwritten, and some was already in some format, in draft format, in the computer. And she took those and placed those into a book format. And she spent from 2019 to 2020 to put those in this book format before we got it close to where we are now.
So once you got your your format, you pulled together all your materials. What was that process of getting that to a publisher, and how long did that take? And one of the things that our viewers should know is there are some expenses that are incurred during this process. Could you share with us what your average expense was in getting this book to the public?
Well, it was because of my colleague and my international chairman and one of our bishops, who's the board of bishops. He's the chairman of the board of bishops, Bishop James Hudson from Erie, Pennsylvania. In 2019, he introduced me to the publisher, Lance Dickerson, of the curriculum and training system out of Las Vegas. They have some other affiliation from Las Vegas, Nevada. And he placed me in contact with this young man. And this is where we had been searching for getting my book published. It was talking about $5,000 and $10,000, and I just put it to the side because I was no way able to do that. But coming with this young man introduced to me by Bishop Hudson, we got this book published through lots of blood, sweat, and tears, and telephone calls, and every Monday meeting back and forth on telephone for $1,500.
Okay.
Unheard of. And I was able to pay that one time, and we have been in contact since. And as a matter of fact, he's have other books, and he'll be joining me at the at our convention, our convocation in Alabama, to share his books and share his CTS as curriculum training system, and he working with other potential writers. And I'll be happy to share his information with anyone who would like to have his information.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Dr. Spencer, tell us about your process. Once you start writing, got a manuscript, what were the steps to move that forward to publication?
Well, I was very fortunate. A friend of mine referred me to Sunshine Publishing here in Sacramento.
Okay.
And what happened, this company had all people and all personnel available, like the editor, the designer, and also to aid in developing some of the technical aspects of the publication. The cost was roughly $2,800. I did not have much of a problem because Phyllis Clements was so thorough in her work. She practically took over the manuscript from the time I gave it to her until it was published. Upon publishing, she made one request, and that was to be sure that this served as a blueprint for African Americans, and especially for the youngsters, so they would have something to go by in order to be successful. Other than that, the story was easy to write. I sat down at the computer and the information just flowed to me. And it must have been a God-given inspiration, because I recall the history of my life without being impeded by forgetting what had happened.
Okay. And how long did that process take from the time that you provided your manuscript to publication?
It took approximately 4 to 5 months. It
Okay.
was pretty quick because she was thorough, as I said, and we were able to get the work done. It's one thing I would like to recommend to the public. Do your research. Choose a professional person to aid you. It would be much easier and it is much more intriguing, and happy to have someone to assist you.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you, Dr. Spencer. And let's go on. Brother Deveon Remaker, please tell us about your process of getting your book written and then published.
So, as I mentioned before, I do spoken word poetry. It's always been a passion of mine. I had stopped doing spoken word poetry maybe 8 to 9 years ago. I kept having this thought of wanting to write a book, but never really having a plan in place. And I'm pretty methodical. So I said, okay, well, I need to just start writing, put the pieces on a computer. So I just start writing different pieces. Fast forward to January of last year, January of 2022. And I can say, it wasn't all writer's block, but there was no consistency in theme over the years of the pieces that I was writing. So I decided to just scratch all those pieces and come up with a theme and start developing around that. And then I would say there was a heavy emphasis on the way I structured it during my paternity leave from April to June of last year. So I finalized a solid draft at that time. And then I got it over to my wife and a close friend for feedback of the topics. And then my wife actually read through the first draft. I would say there's this misconceived notion that self-publishing is the easier route because it does come with its challenges. Self-publishing implies that you're putting everything together from beginning to end. And it's just that. I had to do research on editors, illustration, marketing. It comes with no guide. So essentially, it's just a blank canvas. But I was able to finalize my topics, get an actual draft into an editor that I discovered through Upwork. So Upwork is a great resource. So I found my editor through Upwork and the illustrator. And they were reviewing it in September of last year simultaneously, and got the final piece uploaded into Ingram Spark in October. So the book published in October of last year.
Okay. And I think some people do the self-publishing route, but you can verify that because they have more control and they can, and maybe it's more economical, and then you put together a better financial return. So what are your thoughts about that?
I agree. I think it's more cost effective. Overall, I spent roughly $1,400
Okay.
to get started, and that includes getting my ISBN numbers and barcodes, the illustrator, editor, and so some of those fees, all of the fees came up to approximately $1,400, and ultimately it just gives you the liberty to put out whatever product you want, right? And so I know sometimes with publication companies, though I haven't done a lot of research on publishers, but I know there's certain restrictions or timelines you have to meet. And so I think with self-publishing, it just kind of relieves you of a lot of stressors going that route.
Okay, outstanding. All right, again, for our viewers, this is Omega Black Writers webinar number 7. We start this program in November of 2021 to promote the intellectual scholarly work of our members of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, but also we wanted to give them an opportunity to promote themselves and introduce our readers to new materials, because we've had 27 different books that we have promoted through our webinar. So a lot of these writers may be new to you, but we hopefully will then, by introducing them to you, you will then support them. So we're going to carry on with, let's stay with you, Brother Remaker. Let's tell the viewing public why they should buy your book and where your book can be purchased.
Yes. So and I forgot to mention, in terms of the publishing company, I was able to get some invaluable input from good friends of mine, Dr. Teddy McMillan and also Christelle Patterson, who are both authors. And Christelle actually mentioned Ingram Spark as a good route to go. But people should buy Dreams That Have Consequences. Again, Dreams That Have Consequences, of Poetic Balance. It's a relatable book, right? So everyone has dreams. And I think these topics are all relevant, right? Parenting, we talk about career in this book, marriage. There's so many different topics, education. A lot of times people want to go and get their education, but then we don't think about the debt that comes along with that, right? So there's a lot of relevant topics as it pertains to dreams. It's thought-provoking material that allows one to look at things less discussed in greater detail. So many times in regards to our day-to-day things, we don't get the true reality, just the surface details. And Dreams That Have Consequences offer both sides of that coin. And growing up, I wish I dreamt more often, but sometimes in our lives, people teach us to suppress those thoughts and ideas because those dreams may not be attainable. Well, this book is for the dreamer, but allowing people to make informed decisions about things they set out to accomplish. And lastly, I would say it's an educational tool. I really was strategic on making it a short read because it can apply to our youth as well. So for our educators out there, if you have high school students that are into creative writing or need ways of expressing themselves or are learning how to write free verse type poetry, free form, this is the perfect book, the perfect blueprint. So it can be used for, like I said, high school students to adults, and has a lot of great topics in here. And it's poetry, it makes you feel good. So that's why you should get the book. And then it can be purchased on Amazon online, Target online, Walmart, and Barnes and Noble. So
okay, outstanding. Okay, that's great. Okay, you're up, Dr. Spencer. Tell us why we should have your memoirs on our bookshelves, and where can we purchase them?
Well, again, the story tells what African Americans in the early days in Mississippi went through, not only in Mississippi, but even in the nation. The book describes the day-to-day operations of some of the things that I went through. It tells about the night I was placed in jail in Vicksburg, Mississippi, because I was driving a new pickup truck that my father had purchased. It is unbelievable, some of the stories that's told in this book. It will also enable our children to understand African American Black history. This book has a lot of history in it, and it tells how our people suffered. It even explains Emmett Till's lynching. It explains Mike Parker's lynching. And all of this is in this book so that our children will be able to understand the history of the injustices that our ancestors went through up until Juneteenth and afterwards, and even today. Thank you.
Well, no, where can we buy your book, Doc?
Amazon.com. I made it very easy. In other words, it's a total package. And if you have a problem within the book and also with Omega Black writers, you have my email. I will gladly get a book to you. So you have many sources to get the book, but mostly you can get it from Amazon.com.
Okay, outstanding. All right, Bishop Young, you've been selling your story since we started. So, but go ahead and put the exclamation mark on why everyone should have your book on their bookshelves and where your book can be purchased.
Thank you, Jerry. This has been very informative. I want to thank all of the panelists and all of the viewers who are listening today. I would like to say that any one of you out there who are looking to ascend to the heights of the fullest of your potentials, your dreams, your visions, your goals in life, you should purchase this book and read this book to see how you can break the chains of opposition and generational curses to be transformed into a generational wealth with the blessings of God and your obedience to God. This book is parallel with the story of Joseph and his brothers. And Joseph, of course, many of you probably know, if you read in Genesis, that was sold in the pit, but he came to the throne to aid his brothers and aid his country in time of famine. And this book right here would suddenly be a great book that you could be able to be committed and have forgiveness and repentance and reconciliation and restoration and revitalization through your families, through your churches, through your businesses, through your acquaintances by purchasing this book. And you can order this autographed copy of this book by going to mtibiblecollege.com. It will give you all.
We put it in the chat for you, Bishop. It's in the chat.
Oh, it's in the chat. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we put it there so anybody can get that link.
Okay, and you get that link, or you can just go to that link, or you may visit Amazon.com and purchase this book. And I'm looking forward every week to be sending out books all across the country, across the world, for you to get this book in your library shelf soon. So I trust and hope that you will be blessed of receiving and reading this book. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Again, this is Omega Black Writers 7, and I want to emphasize that none of our writers, for any of the 27 books, have been compensated for being on our webinar. So with that, we ask, in fact, it costs them money to participate with us. They donate 5 autographed copies of their books. And for those of you who registered and who are now viewing, we will randomly pull your names and ship books to you as a thank you for supporting the program. When we do that and that book arrives, we do send you a little note of thank you, but we do ask you to text us a photo with the book so that we can use that and they can use that on their social media. So that is a benefit to you for attending. But regardless, we want you to support them by going out primarily to Amazon. And then you could also order through the Bishop, through his link, order their books so that you can have and read and share their stories. So we do ask that you would do that because, again, it actually costs them money to be here tonight. With that, we would typically wrap up, but we have some more time and we do have some other questions. But before we get to those questions, I think it's important that we acknowledge and get some opinions on, and we're going to ask each writer to comment on the Supreme Court striking down affirmative action. So Bishop Young, if you would, share with us your thoughts on the recent sad Supreme Court ruling.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday, Brother Holliday, for sharing that. I think that this is one of the saddest days in America for the Black, for this to be stricken down today. Many of our Black Americans have attended college on this merit. We know that the system is not fair in the United States for the Black Americans. If we was all created equal, why we don't have the same access to the economics, for the jobs, for the education, and why and all the other things we're having with the police brutality targeted on the Blacks. And we can say that this is, someone can say this is a great day for this to be done. I think it's a sad day for our Black Americans who try to strive, who coming from the deep South, a segregated South, and myself, I am totally disheartened about this decision for this to be stricken down, because many of our Black have made it so far. What we're looking at, not just of those, but all of the Blacks that are coming on behind us. We see now in all of the UC systems, we already have a disparity. In a graduating class of my son graduated from UCLA, of 600 students, and he was 4 of those 600 students was Black in electrical engineering. And that's just a statistic. If you're looking at other UCs, other colleges all across, our Blacks are going to have a hard time trying to measure up and match up, because the schools in the system, being from a public school setting myself, I served on the school board, I worked in the school system. We back South, we were separated, but we're not equal. And that same high school that I graduated from 54 years ago is still segregated.
Wow.
And we have a hard time, we will have a hard time for our Blacks. And we hope that any way that we can, and I know that the Supreme Court will make the decision, but I think that that decision needs to be overturned.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Spencer. And one thing I never share with you is my father and his family's hometown is Aberdeen, Mississippi. So you know, we all got those roots, right? So what are you and also let me share. I was on social media earlier and I saw a very eloquent presentation on this topic by your daughter. She posted something on this decision that was outstanding. In fact, I was watching it just before we started. Quite articulate, well stated. She did an outstanding analysis. So with that, Dr. Spencer, what is your thoughts of the Supreme Court overturning affirmative action?
Brother Holliday, I don't have words to express how not only disgusting, but outright shameful that this action has been taken. Being a product of an HBCU where we have been underfunded for years, and even today, when you compare the state universities in the Deep South, the HBCUs, to the PWI institutions, there is no comparison. And for this to happen, not only is it mind-boggling, it is unbelievable. And I think, to be honest with you, that African Americans, we need to take to the streets. We need to start demonstrating. We need to start making people aware of actually how we feel. As long as we sit back and do not complain, I can assure you, not only are they going to pass new legislation, but it's going to get worse. And I get very emotional when you talk about affirmative action, because I have lived it, I have seen it, I have experienced it, I have been hurt by the injustices by the system. And as some people have said, I am tired of being tired. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, lastly, Deveon Remaker, what are your thoughts on this recent ruling?
Yeah, it's a tough one. You know, it's just one of those things where I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it and process it all. You know, I just think back when I was at Cal State Fullerton, we were only 3.5% of the population. The total population at the time may have been 35,000. It's a commuter campus. But 3.5% of that with the Black population. And so it's such a small number on campus. And you know, Cal State Fullerton is considered a PWI. And, you know, I think it is sad because we certainly need more representation on these campuses. And this may further prevent some of these things. It's going to further prevent equity just across the board. You know, and sometimes I try to look at the flip side of it, like, well, you know, could it mean that we're really getting in on our own merit once this is removed? You know, there's no like handout per se, right? But it's still it's unfortunate that it happened. So I'm just still trying to process it all, wrap my mind around it. But it certainly has been in place to help the minority group. And yeah, I'm shocked overall.
Okay. Now, before we get to Q&A, I'm going to ask one item. So, having gone through the process of writing and being published, what is one thing, and let's make it not get a computer, what is one thing that you would share with our viewers in terms of getting started? What is one thing that you would recommend to all the budding writers that are watching? And let's go ahead and stay with you, Brother Remaker.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Brother Holiday, can you repeat the question?
What's one thing you would recommend to anyone who wants to become published?
Absolutely. So I think for me, it's more so get the first draft out. Just start writing, get a draft out. We all have ideas that we want to put on paper. But just think about the subject is more so things that you're passionate about. It may make it easier, the writing process, you know, things that you're passionate about. Really think about that as subject material. And like I said, just get your draft out and have no expectations, right? You're developing an audience for the first time. You don't know who's going to receive it, who's going to be receptive to this information. So try not to have no expectations on the product. Just go with passion, start your draft. And I strongly encourage you to read it aloud yourself. You read it aloud before it even goes to an editor. You'll be surprised on how many grammatical errors, punctuation that you may catch when you're reading your product out loud. So, you know, just have fun with it overall and know that it's from you, it's from the heart, and it's something you're passionate about, and the audience will receive it.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you. All right, Dr. Spencer, what's one thing you would recommend to our viewing audience in terms of getting started and getting published?
Well, it was relatively easy for me from the standpoint that after sitting down at the computer, as you have indicated, the information just flowed to me. It came back. And I think it's because of the injustices that I had received. I think to some extent I was hurt. It was easy for me to write this manuscript, beginning with my father being a sharecropper, and to see how he had to argue with the landlord in order to make a profit at the end of the year. These things stuck with me. Then through high school, then through college, all of the injustices. It stayed with me. I didn't have a problem to recall. I would suggest sitting down and just let it flow. It will come to you, especially when you have experienced something of the nature that I did. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doctor. Okay, Bishop, what is your one recommendation that you have for our viewers?
In addition to my colleagues on the platform today recommendation, I would say that you should follow your passion and share your dreams and your vision with your family and your close friendship of colleagues. I've had the very good personal privilege of having professors in my Bible college and research and editors and English professors, and had the personal privilege of my daughter-in-law and my grandchildren and my two sons to utilize their expertise to help me and share my story. As Dr. Spencer said, we have some similarities. I'm Alabama next door to Mississippi, and to hear me share this around the kitchen table with my family, my grandchildren, and one of my grandchildren, my grandchild said that it seemed like his big dad was a slave. When I talked about in my book on working for $2 a day. So they understand now the value of life and the value of hard work. And they have all agreed to spend this summer or next summer reading my book, my grandchildren, my children. They're going to read that book as one of the summer things to get to know about the family. And they purchased me a book this for Father's Day, all about my grandfather. So I'm going to write information about what happened to me from day one all the way through. And they have a question for every day. It's a big old book to write when I go on vacation next month. So I'll be working on that for them, and they're going to work on reading my book. So I would say involve your family as much as possible and your colleagues that have expertise in editing. And I think that will be a great suggestion for future writers.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you for sharing. So we're going to go ahead and move into a Q&A. We have some questions and some comments. But before we do that, we do want to recognize those who have helped to make this program, this webinar possible. And with that, I'd like to thank the members of the Kappa Xi chapter of the Omega Psi Phi in Las Vegas. We basically had an idea, and the chapter did support us, and they actually support us financially because there's some expenses involved. So we do want to thank the chapter and our current boss list, Dr. Andre Denson, who is viewing. We appreciate his ongoing support. Also his predecessor, our immediate past boss list, Jamon Kearney. But we also want to recognize the 12th District of Omega Psi Phi, as they have been supportive of this project from the beginning. The previous district representative, Brother Kwame Dow, has given us opportunities and circulates our information to all the members within the 10-state region. So we thank him. We want to recognize and thank the newly elected District Representative William Earl Edwards for allowing us to continue to send this information out to the district. But, you know, everyone should recognize what they're good at and what they're not. And what I'm not good at is some technology things. So we have probably the best technology team in the 10-state district, because they're both on the district IT team. I want to recognize and thank Donovan Bell and Allison Reed for continuing to support. They're here, they're hiding in the background, but they do a great job for us. Now, I'm going to make the first non-writer related announcement ever right now. I want to invite everyone to look at their calendars for October 19th to October 22nd. The Kappa Xi chapter of Omega Psi Phi is hosting a multiple day event that includes golf, comedy show, a wine soiree, and all types of entertainment. So it's going to be October 19th to the 22nd, a classy, jazzy affair in Las Vegas. And if you let me know that you're coming, I will make arrangements to be set up with some books if you are a fan of Omega Black writers. And you'll walk away with, because like I said, all our writers donate 5 signed copies of their books. So if you come to Vegas, and you should come, because Vegas is a happening city. So hopefully we'll see you there and you can join us. And if you didn't get the details, just hit us up on our social media, Omega Black Writers on Instagram and Facebook. Also, this broadcast will be posted on YouTube All our previous editions are already posted there. Just search Omega Black Writers. And with that, let's get to some of our questions and comments. Okay. Okay, we have a comment for the writers. Outstanding authors and writers, love hearing about your inspiration and writings. Brother Dr. Andre Denson, bosses of Kappa Psi chapter. So he's watching. Let's see. Erica Spencer, this is so inspiring. Okay, we do have a question from Willie Killings. Did any of the brothers go through Book Baby for editing, print, or distribution? So did anyone use Book Baby, which it appears to be a tool for writers? Okay, does not appear, Willie, that anyone has used that tool. But again, we have 27 books that we've discussed. If you want to reach out to any of the other authors, you can do that by just sending us a message. Okay. Okay, thank you for this information, brothers. It's very useful, encouraging to keep going. Brother Christopher, I'm going to leave that last name alone. I'm sorry, bro. I ain't gonna need it. But he's in Kappa Lambda chapter. I'm just gonna recognize my shortcomings here. Okay, and actually, the link for the weekend event is in the chat. If anybody wants to make arrangements and get more information. Brothers, let's see, got another comment here. Thanks for sharing our Mississippi story, Dr. Spencer. I'm from Lambert in the Delta near Clarksdale, Mississippi. Can't wait to read your book. I'll be purchasing it. Here. And then Mississippi runs another comment. Mississippi runs deep here. My pops, Kappa Phi 68, is from Noxapater, Mississippi. Okay, another comment. Thank you all for sharing your journeys with us. We know it's a long and arduous task for all of you. God bless each of you. Okay, here's a question from George Vaughn. Are there any publishing houses owned or operated by African Americans? Anyone aware of any Black publishing companies?
Yes, mine
Okay.
was Sunshine Solutions in Sacramento. That's African American.
Okay, Sunshine Solutions, George Bonner, Sunshine Solutions in Sacramento is African American owned. Also,
CTS.
Okay, who was that?
The CTS Curriculum Training System of Las Vegas, Nevada, is Black owned and operated publishing company from Lance Dickerson.
Okay, all right. So there's another one for you. And one of our previous presenters, Dr. Gerald Curry, operates Curry Brothers Publishing. So he does also operate a publishing company. So hopefully between those three, and you can listen to this recording once it's posted if you didn't get those names, or you could message us on our social media. Okay. Outstanding brothers, keep up the great work. Teddy McMillan. Gina L. Wallace, thanks so much to the panel. This has been very informative and inspirational. Love this platform. Good stuff. I've read Deveon Remaker's book. Excellent, quick read, very relatable. Can't wait for the next one. I look forward to purchasing the other panels' books. Great job, outstanding work. This is from Andrew Davis, our immediate past first Vice DR. Okay. All right, let's see. Got a couple of questions here. Let's take a look at those. Thanks for taking time to do this. Okay, this was the book baby question that we already addressed. So actually, we're finishing up early. I don't see. Let's see. There's another comment in the chat from Rod Bickerstaff. Congratulations to these brothers authors. Another comment there. And let's see. Okay, that looks like the end of our questions. I think we've had a good night.
Brother Jerry.
Yes.
Brother Jerry, just before you end, I would just like to say, I want to thank you and your team for putting this together. I think this is a great platform that you started, and I want to support this in the future, and I hope that they continue. And I would just, you have this vision for this, for the Black writers, and I want to salute you and thank you for all the work that you've done to make this possible for us. And thank you again.
Okay, it's been a pleasure for me. It's been a work of joy and happiness. I have had a chance to meet some outstanding men like yourself from all over that I otherwise would not have the opportunity to encounter. And just to share with you how impressive a group, and this is not to brag or boast, but simply give credit where credit is due. When I had the idea, which simply was because of in Las Vegas, which is where I'm located, well, most of the time, I noticed that we had about 5 individuals that were Omega men that published books within a 2-year period. And it just became really notable to me. So I reached out and I said, you know, we need to do something to recognize this. And it basically grew from there. I made some calls. One of the first calls I made was to Dr. Gerald Curry, who is a Air Force Advocate General, responsible for like 7,000 Air Force hearings a year, a high responsibility, but he's published 3 books. And he was in Las Vegas for a time, and I talked with him, and he was very supportive of the idea. Obviously, being also having a publishing company, he's ghostwritten 7 books. But we had 10 people who we approached who all wanted to participate. So we then went to have a November 2021 and then a December 2021 because we couldn't do 10 at one time. But what was notable is out of 10 African-American males from all over the country, and they were truly diverse in terms of location, 6 of them had doctorates, which impressed me to no end. What are the odds that you could gather a group of Black men and 6 of them had doctorates and another had masters, and they all had undergraduate degrees? So we think education is important and critical, and we want to continue to support our youth any way we can to pursue scholarship. Oh, okay, we got an amen. Okay, brother. Okay, we got an amen to that. So, you know, with that, unless anyone has any other comments they care to share or make, we are going to end. And I want to commend you, gentlemen, on doing an outstanding job. You're once again made us proud, and been my pleasure to meet and work with each of you.
Before you go,
thank you so much.
I would like to express my thanks for your dedication in presenting this. And congratulations, my dear brother. I would say continue this history, and it will provide a blueprint for African Americans. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doctor.
Also,
All right.
I also want to acknowledge Brother Holiday again. We appreciate you, taking the time out of your day to host these events, to give us the platform to share our work, and just overall being professional. We really appreciate that. I also want to acknowledge Brother Young, just in terms of we share the same wedding anniversary date. Yeah, so I'm in good company.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. He got a few years ahead of you. You'll catch
I
up.
know,
with
right?
him.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
right.
I know.
Only about 39 years ahead of you.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Look. I'll be 10. We'll be married 10 years next year. But
Okay.
48.
there you go. And also just want to encourage people to follow my Instagram page, Dev.Da.Poet. So that's I'm gonna continue to promote future work as well. So if you would like to stay tuned in with some of the projects I'm working on, and also just to see some of my spoken word content, it is available on Instagram. So again, thank you, Brother Holiday, and to the other panelists as well. So.
All right. We do a dry run before yesterday. We did a dry run, and I told them, I said, when we get on here tomorrow, which is today, we're gonna be fired. And as always, we were fired. Congratulations, sirs and gentlemen, and everyone take care. So we're going to go ahead and call it a night. And thank you for viewing and joining us. And we'll be back in the fall. We take a break for the summer, and we'll look at a November event for number 8, and we probably will go back to 4 panelists, but we'll check. It's a question of how many are willing and ready to participate at that particular time. All right, dear sirs, thank you. And Donovan, appreciate you, and Allison. And you can go ahead and take us away, sir. Rubras.
Thank you.